on Elves and Counters Company. So a lot of these green creatures in Modern and Legacy, but we're going to look at the standard match here, where Dan Girdler is playing 4-color God Pharaoh's Gift.
Yeah, this deck is kind of all over the place, and I'm excited to see what happens. If the mana comes together, we have a lot of powerful options. This is a refurbished build. We're trying to cast Chart a Course, Strategic Planning, get set up with an early God Pharaoh's Gift, and we also have kind of the combo configuration with Combat Celebrant trying to win just with one big turn.
So this is basically Jeskai Gift. The only black card here is the Scarab God. So yeah, you're going to be looking at that, including the Combat Celebrant. And we'll go ahead and get started. Dan Girdler with Spire Bluff Canal.
How long, what turn do we think that Pikula is going to piece together what he's playing against? I think he's going to have to see a God Pharaoh's Gift.
Yeah, right now, search for Escanta turn 2 from Dan. That's pretty innocuous.
Yeah, this could still be something like Grixis Energy.
Well, the good thing about Sultai Constrictor is that it doesn't really care. A lot of times this is a deck which it's going to make a great 2-drop, and then we'll just start attacking. Yeah,
Pikula's plan, just get on the battlefield, start beating down, and if he's not executing there, he's going to lose to pretty much any deck in the format.
So right now, Aether Hub. Going to probably likely spend that energy for Chris, however.
Yeah, big check for the deck is definitely the turn 2 Constrictor, though he has a nice one anyway.
Yeah, Glint Sleeve Siphoner, which actually, because he could cast that off as dual land, he goes up to 2 energy, which means if it survives, he'll get an extra card right away.
And with the lands that Girdler has led on, this looks like a deck that's going to have something like Harness Lightning, Fatal Push, so the Constrictor is not that great, and getting extra cards would certainly be. If he's able to get to the draw step, or the upkeep rather, with the Siphoner, draw an extra card. Though this is not really the matchup where that's going to pay off.
Looks like there's a little bit of trigger. What happened was Dan Girdler misresolving search for Escanta, put the card on the bottom instead of in his graveyard. Look, there will be just checking in with a judge to make sure that it's corrected appropriately. And it looks like they said, yes, we'll put it in the graveyard, not on the bottom. That's what the card does.
Yeah.
A caution giving for misresolving the trigger.
Obviously, the graveyard's where you want it anyway.
Yep.
Just some confusion.
So Chris does get the extra card off Siphoner, though, going to 19. It does survive through the untap. We see in Dan's hand a copy of Sweltering Sun. So he has, looks like 2 of those in the main deck. Now he'll have the option to cycle it here, as it looks like he doesn't have double red just yet.
Right, Spire Bluff Canal, double island, and those are the 2 islands in the deck. Again, this is kind of a 4-color mana base, and
ooh, I look at his mana base: 2 island, 2 mountain, 2 plains, 2 swamp. This is wild.
Yeah, this deck really all over the place. And he's off the 2nd red for that Sweltering Suns, but then this deck also is just playing 3 Angel of Invention at the top of the curve and Azor the Lawbringer. The mana's really not working out.
I mean, I like what he's doing here, but that is some ambitious set of cards.
Yeah.
Servant of the Conduit comes in for Chris. He gets to cast it off Blooming Marsh, getting him up to 3 energy after that attack. You see Dan will go ahead and put Refurbish in the graveyard from search. He declined to cycle that Sweltering Suns. He's hoping to hit another red, as the board would be pretty good for a Sweltering Suns.
Yeah, this would be a nice spot for it. The land is Ipnu Rivulet, just more blue mana. Really gross.
Right, so there's actually a lot of just singular blue sources. Dan's going to try to do something here, though. Here's Champion of Wits, drawing 2, discarding 2. You see a main deck copy of Negate in his hand.
And this turn, now Chris should know what's going on. Refurbish put in the graveyard by the search, Champion.
Angel of Invention, Vizier of Many Faces, discarded. Yeah, we got it.
Yeah. It's probably still confusing. Chris is wondering how this is the turn that just happened, but at least now he should know what the deck is.
He's probably not seeing Azor coming, though.
Right, that one.
Not based off the information given.
Right, that one should surprise anybody, I'm pretty sure.
Another extra card here for Pikula from that Siphoner. And one of the things, I'm a pretty big fan of the Constrictor decks in general and Standard, is that, yes, Dan's doing a bunch of very fancy things, but what Chris has the advantage is he can ignore it. Play things, attack, pump, whatever.
Right. Yeah, until Dan can set up the God Pharaoh's Gift, he's not doing much of anything. And the backup plan of just starting to cast 5-mana spells, things like eternalizing the Vizier of Many Faces, this doesn't do enough.
No.
Chris is going to present way too much pressure for a plan like that.
And Dan building up toward transforming that search for Escanta. Just 4 cards in the graveyard right now. Another Aether Hub from Pikula.
Can transform that and have yet another source of blue mana.
5 mana. Are we looking at a Gear Hulk? We are. Here's Werder's Gearhulk. We'll see whether Chris wants to share or whether he wants to give all of it to Glint Sleeve Siphoner. And I love this play. No sharing. Let's make this a 6/5 menace.
And this is really powerful for a couple of reasons. Not only is that the fresh creature, that's 4 points kind of haste damage this turn, but it also, this is a menace creature, so it makes it so Dan has to present more to the battlefield to ever block.
You saw Dan reaching to block there, and Chris said, no, this guy's menacing. Dan goes to 12 on the hit. Top card, Minister of Inquiries. That's going to be milled over. 5 in the graveyard. Here's a white source and that second red source, but it's Inspiring Vantage. It enters the battlefield tapped. And we start to look at Dan's hand. Negate, Sweltering Suns, Chart a Course. This is all really slow.
Right. You're seeing the pain of the ambition of the mana base here.
Now you see Chart a Course drawing 2. Shock picked up, it looks like. Is that right? No, it's something else. No, it's Combat Celebrant. My mistake.
And I think that
he's going to get beaten up.
Right. Chris is already too far ahead to recover with something like this. If you're going to hard cast.
You know, what Dan's looking for in this kind of matchup is he needs just that turn 4 refurbish.
Yes.
Right?
And things just happen exactly opposite. He didn't search over the Godpharaoh's Gift. He searched over the refurbish. So his graveyard just isn't set up to do anything. Yeah, and there's one of the things I like about Sultai Constrictor is that this deck wins on about turn 5 or turn 6. One of those two every game, every draw. If you don't play removal spells and you don't sweep away their creatures, even on a 6-card hand, even on a 5-card hand, Sultai Constrictor wins on that turn. Yeah. And with that Gearhulk last turn, Pikula now has this 6-power menace creature. The Gearhulk also just has Trample, so that's going to punch over the Champion of Wits with ease. Servant of the Conduit also available to attack. Plenty of damage on the battlefield. There's some theoretical draws that can give him lethal on this turn, say another Gearhulk. Hadana's Climb, depending, definitely ups the damage. Hadana's Climb plus Constrictor adds a lot of points. He's definitely had the Constrictor for the entire game here. He just hasn't cast it yet.
And here is Winding Constrictor from Chris. Looks like he has multiple copies. And makes Walking Ballista. This might be lethal. Ballista will have 3 counters.
Yeah, this looks like it does it.
Shoots down Champion. So now he's free to attack for 10, put Dan to 2, and Ballista does the remaining 2. That's exact. Nice sequencing by Chris.
And there's nothing in the deck that Dan can add to deal with this. For interactive spells in the main deck, he just has a couple negates.
Ballista does the last 2. And that's going to be it for game number 1. Chris Pikula picks it up in Standard. You see up over in the Legacy seat, more good news for the team on the left. Jarvis Yu with lands takes a game over Elves.
Tabernacle figures to be pretty good against the go-wide creature deck.
Absolutely. So, some advantages here for the team of Yu, Duke, and Pikula. We'll be back with game number 2 in just a minute. Back here with round number 1 of the Standard Open here from Cincinnati. When we left, Jarvis and Pikula had won game 1. Reed Duke deciding to follow suit here with Jund. He picks up the win in Modern. Imagine here, Ryan, this weekend we are casting from the Duke Energy Center here in Cincinnati. So I think as Reed and his teammates often like to say, there may not be any question as to who runs these streets.
Yeah, a little bit of home field advantage. Though, amusingly, we have a Cornell, a Dartmouth, no Duke College represented.
No.
Anyway, let's go to the sideboards here.
Jarvis is also one of those. Oh, it's an Ivy League school. I'm gonna get it wrong. I was gonna say, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna get it wrong.
I literally had the same thoughts. Let's just talk about Magic.
All right. Chris Pikula, Sultai Constrictor. So he knows up against God Pharaoh's Gift, and because of that discarded Combat Celebrant at the end of game 1, he probably knows the type of God Pharaoh's Gift he's against as well.
Yeah, has a pretty good idea. In the sideboard here, we have 3 Duress, 3 Thrashing Brontodon, 2 Cartouche of Ambition, 2 Death Gorge Scavenger, a Fatal Push, a Carnage Tyrant, a Life Crafter's Bestiary, a Vraska's Contempt, and a Vraska Relic Seeker. So Chris is pretty solidly the beatdown in this matchup. He's playing against a combo deck that has some pretty strong inevitability. Ways to break up the combo. The Duress is fine. Death Gorge Scavenger actually pretty powerful in the matchup.
Yeah.
Keep that graveyard low, keep the creatures out of there. And also, I like the Thrashing Brontodons a good amount, just an answer to God Pharaoh's Gift.
So how much does he want cards like, I guess, yeah, so Thrashing Brontodon answers God Pharaoh's Gift. Vraska's Contempt, it exiles creatures, which is going to be good against a graveyard deck. Now, this is his 4th copy of it. There's already 3 in the main. And I don't know how reactive he actually wants to be in this matchup.
Yeah, that's a little heavy on just spot removal for a matchup like this. If Dan's just casting creatures, Chris is in pretty good shape. And if he's triggering God Pharaoh's Gift, Contempt's not doing enough.
Now, on Dan Girdler's side, he's got a couple different copies of cards already in his main deck. So he has another Sweltering Suns. I assume he'll like that. He's got more negates. Okay, there's not much to negate out of Chris's deck. He's got a 2nd Azor, and then he has some cards like Protean Raider, Combustible Gearhulk, and Settle the Wreckage in large numbers to change his strategy. Yeah,
so the Combustible Gearhulks, those are going to be more for control matchups, ways to punch for a lot or generate some card advantage.
It's just a 6/6 in this matchup.
Right. The Protean Raiders are not going to be as good against a synergy deck than a deck that's just casting singularly very powerful creatures. The big find are the Settle the Wreckage here.
Yeah, is that... If you're playing against God Pharaoh's Gift, do you expect Settle the Wreckage out of the sideboard, especially 3 copies?
I would be pretty surprised to have an opponent that heavy on it. It is unfortunate the way that the mana shakeups. This is a Sultai deck for Chris, but he's playing Duress, not Negate. So you kind of have to Duress at the right spots to really beat the Settle. If Chris can see it or even grab the Settle with a Duress, he'll be in pretty good shape. But generally, it lines up very well against his deck.
Big question. So I play some Constrictor, and I don't always think about Settle out of this deck. Big question for me, think about those lands from game 1 on Dan's side. Can he cast Settle the Wreckage?
Yeah, the Spire Bluff Canal, Island, Ipnu Rivulet deck. It's pretty concerning. We'll find out if Dan draws Settle, can he even cast it? That is a pretty interesting dilemma here. And we're underway. Here's the Inspiring Vantage on turn 1, so Dan potentially in shape to cast cards like that.
Yeah, and we see another tap land from Chris. I'm interested to see how Dan's mana can come together. It looks like he'll have that turn 2, we see Ipnu Rivulet, a copy of Cathartic Reunion. That helps a lot. He also has strategic planning, so we'll see how he wants to lead out here. Looks like it will be Cathartic Reunion. Discard 2, draw 3. Might as well get that one out when there's no chance of negate. You really won't want to see that countered.
Right.
He'll get rid of God Pharaoh's Gift and Angel of Invention. So if he can find Refurbish, he's all set up. He doesn't yet. He finds a Mountain and 2 copies of Champion of Wits. But this is a good start for the God Pharaoh's Gift deck. He's, you know, turn 2, building the graveyard. Champion of Wits is basically what you want to be doing turn 3 all the time.
Right. Has the white mana set up as well. If he finds a Refurbish, he's good to get back the God Pharaoh's Gift, get back that Angel of Invention, really start doing some damage.
Servant to the Conduit from Chris. He will get 2 energy and pass. Dan, basic Mountain in hand. It's a 2nd red. No copy of Sweltering Suns yet, but he has the mana for it. Plays Champion. He'll play it off an island here. Strategic planning, another God Pharaoh's Gift.
Yeah, 4 copies in the deck.
4 of the gifts.
Which you usually see in these refurbished builds.
Sure.
You want to make sure you can get one in the graveyard.
Discards Gift and Strategic Planning, 5 cards in the graveyard now. Suppose actually because he's not because he's the refurbished build, counting the graveyard only really matters on Search for Azcanta.
Right, yeah, you don't have any gate to the afterlives, so you don't have to track those creatures. Instead, just going really heavy on Chart a Course, planning, Champion of Wits, a lot of natural discard outlets.
Chris Pikula, basic, Forest.
Chris's start's been pretty slow so far, though turn 3, 4, that's generally when the deck tends to get on the battlefield in a big way.
Yeah, it feels slow because he's on the draw. The thing about green-black is that it's, and I know I said this earlier, it's got about this 1 speed. Okay, he played a tap land into a 2-drop. You think that's slow, but that's just what the deck does.
Right, that's the deck's pace.
Yep. Deathgorge Scavenger will go ahead and eat away Angel of Invention. I do like that play quite a bit from Chris.
Yep.
Unfortunately, this Champion of Wits is holding off an attack from serving the Conduit, and Chris just has to pass. That's a huge win for Dan.
Trading in combat with Champion is not a good exchange.
Basic Swamp from Dan. If I'm in Chris about, my eyebrows raise at that one. Like Basic Swamp. What are you doing, man?
Right. There's just no way that Settle the Wreckage is on Pikula's radar.
Why does he? Okay. Why?
You signed up for Commander Pod
I don't. There's 2 basic swamps in the deck, Ryan. I'm trying to be charitable, but I don't get it.
The swamps are very heavy. You know, there is the 1 Scarab God
And 1 Locust God. No wait, that's blue-red.
Yeah. The second swamp,
I'm off it.
It's you can activate the Scarab God twice.
Stop it.
I'm saying why I also disagree with the choice, but that's kind of what it does.
All right. But either way, what I do like from Dan's side is he's still at 20 after rolling a second Champion of Wits. He's digging pretty deep in his deck, and he's keeping his life total very healthy.
I think the more telling thing for me, the mana base is pretty stretched, and kind of the bigger issue is that there's only 20 lands. So you really can't afford these slots that sometimes feel like having a basic waste in your deck.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing 2 copies of Azor the Lawbringer. I don't know, and also he has 3 Sweltering Suns. You have to cast your cards at some point.
Right. The deck has a good amount of redraws. You know, you have Chart a Course, Cathartic Reunion, Strategic Planning. You're pretty heavy on blue, so your Chart a Courses and your Strategic Plannings, they should be good, but you only have so many of them.
Winding Constrictor from Chris, and now he's deploying pretty hard here. We see Glint Sleeve Siphoner. Thanks to the Constrictor, it brings him up to 3 energy. But still, Chris just can't attack. These champions are just a pain.
And this is the kind of battlefield where if Dan can present a Sweltering Suns, that'd be very impactful.
But he wants to do it soon. Despite the fact that Dan's at 20, imagine that Chris's next turn is land Verdurous Gearhulk.
Yeah.
It's a disaster.
Well, suddenly your Suns is both no good anymore.
And every creature gets 2 counters.
Ooh, and actually I really hate this tap. Dan's tapping the Mountain to cast Chart a Course, and Sweltering Suns is just his best draw. He did miss on it, but not being able to cast after that resolves. That Swamp is just the land you should be tapping.
Yeah. So, Ryan, there is a thing I do want to point out, some card choices on Dan's side. So you draw 2 off Chart a Course. He drew Combustible Gearhulk and Negate. I'm not sure I like either of those cards in this matchup.
Yeah, I don't really understand bringing in the Gearhulks because Pikula he just gets larger creatures for less mana than that.
Pikula will always take the damage off it. He won't give you 3 cards. And that's fine. You know, if Pikula will go to 15.
Well, also, maybe he's just got lethal next turn and just gives you the 3 cards we can't possibly lose.
Like if that Gearhulk play I'm talking about, still beat, like if Chris plays a green Gearhulk, who cares?
Right. And also, Chris's deck's just very heavy on creatures. Negate generally not going to play.
Yeah. But Dan has stayed at 20. Yeah, you'd be negating really just for Hadana's Climb, or I guess. There's nothing else I want to negate here. I want to negate a Duress.
Right.
But that's not enough.
There's some of these blue matchups that are heavier on blue mana or post-sideboard. You want to fight a counter
Chris
war.
Has negates.
Exactly. You want to get to 6 mana.
Does.
Yeah, you like refurbish, negate their negate. And that's reasonable. I just don't think this is going to be one of those matchups. And generally, when you see the Sultai Constrictor list, if you're familiar with this build, they're not going to have negate.
And that's true. Also, if your plan is to negate their negate, that means you're playing your refurbish on 6 mana instead of 4. I'm not sure in this matchup you have time for that.
Right.
Like, you kind of just, when you have 4 mana, need to tap out for that refurbish and hope they don't negate it.
Oh, against a deck that applies this much pressure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's why negates effects are strong out of aggro, is because you force your opponent into not fighting the counter wars.
Right.
But Dan, full graveyard. He's still been looking for that payoff card for that refurbish. He's got, you see that Combustible Gear Hulk.
Been making a lot of land drops. We're getting to the point where you could start casting Combustible Gear Hulk.
Yeah, next turn that would definitely be online. It's just a 6/6 though. Chris will definitely take damage. He's at 22. There's no worry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of damage for the Gear Hulk to deal. There's a good amount of 6s. There's some 7s in the deck, but it's pretty unlikely that it deals too much damage.
Yeah. Well, let's see what Chris puts together. Looks like he has in hand a Thrashing Brontodon, which I think that's what he's tapping for. Ooh, no, wait. Yeah, Thrashing Brontodon. That's the 3/4, can get rid of an artifact or enchantment. So that will actually cover Godpharaoh's Gift. What I like about it's an answer if Dan draws the Refurbish. On top of that, he can't negate any part of that.
Right. Pikula does have a Bristling Hydra in hand. It's kind of mopey on this board, and generally in this matchup as well. It really shines when you also have Adana's Climb.
Yeah.
But until you do, it's not really doing enough.
Yeah, Hydra's pretty medium here. I understand it still being in Chris's deck. It's just you're playing the creatures you're playing.
Yeah.
And here is that Combustible Gear Hulk. Chris is going to take a read on it, and we will as well. So 6/6 first strike for 6.
Players who registered.
That's the text that's going to matter here.
And then there's a Browbeat-esque effect stapled on here.
Tribute, if you will. No. And so Chris gets to choose. He may have Dan draw 3 cards. He's not going to choose that one. If he doesn't, then Dan's going to put these 3 cards in the graveyard, and Chris is going to take damage equal to the sum of all their mana costs. So you see Charter Course is 2, Cathartic Reunion is up to 4, and Refurbish is 8. So Chris will take 8 damage from the Gear Hulk.
It's a good chunk of damage, so it's very good for Chris that Dan's not drawing that Refurbish.
Yeah. Yep. If Dan makes another Gear Hulk, I was going to say Chris will have to let him draw 3 cards, but I don't even think that's true. He'll probably just take damage again.
Yeah, we'll burn that bridge when we get there. But the Brontodon also just covers Gear Hulk.
Right, all 5 Gear Hulks are artifacts in addition to being creatures. Thrashing Brontodon can thrash his way through that. You see Chris he's thinking, yeah, maybe I want to do that, and he will. Brontodon, the 3/4 sacrifices to get rid of the Gear Hulk. Robots, of course, they're the natural enemy of dinosaurs.
Perhaps the other way around.
Are you implying that that robots were responsible for the extinction of dinosaurs?
You know, it's uncertain.
But it's possible.
The jury's still out, so you don't really want to say definitively one way or the other.
Every year there are more robots and fewer dinosaurs.
Correct.
So, Duress here from Chris takes negate. The other 2 cards are the Locust God and Inspiring Vantage from Dan Girdler.
On a planet inhabited by humanoid creatures, robots can do a lot more damage than a planet inhabited by reptilian creatures.
What do you mean?
Reptiles are just better at mowing through robots. They have thicker skin, sharper teeth.
Yeah. Well, we saw that right there. The 3/4 took care of the Gear Hulk.
See, humans just play the robots game worse than robots do.
We're just like bad robots?
We're just like crappy robots.
And, oh yeah, that Gear Hulk we were talking about with Constrictor in play. So I've played this deck before. This interaction is key. Constrictor, Gear Hulk.
Yes, you get a lot of counters.
You win. Yeah. Is how it works. That's if you haven't done this, when you cast this, when they don't answer it, you win.
And suddenly Pikula's attacks are very good.
Yeah, that 20 next to Dan's name, that's just not relevant.
And notably, Murderous Gear Hulk, robot, champion of wits, humanoid creature.
Yeah, okay, I agree that
you see who's winning
dinosaur
here?
Did
the
a good
dinosaur
job.
beat the robot. The robot's beating the humans.
Yeah. The robot's going to go ahead and beat Dan.
Yeah.
That's
certainly happening.
This is a mess. Oh, and you see that dinosaur? It ate away the robot from the graveyard.
Yep. Yeah, robot's got nothing on dinos.
Bunch of blocks. Dan's going to take 4, go to 16. This is what I like about Black-Green. He is still going to be dead on the next attack.
Yes, this is just a ton of damage.
You can't life gain through Black-Green. They have this compounding. They compound their board presence so hard that you need to sweep them or they will win.
Right. And at this point, it would have to be settled for Dan. He picked up Refurbish, but because of that Raptor, that graveyard hate, the Angel...
There's no creed?
Exactly. There's no big hits anymore.
Yeah, the Gear Hulk's gone. The Angel Invention's gone. You can refurbish... so you're refurbishing Godpharaoh's Gift, and then you get back...
Champion of Wits?
That's your choice.
Yep. Yeah, that's just not going to be enough. There's just too much going on the other side of the battlefield.
Ryan, if Dan can't figure this out, it's going to be the clean 5-0 over in Legacy, as is. Lands takes care of a creature deck. Jarvis, you is the winner, 2-0.
Yep.
And I think Chris Pikula is going to go ahead and make this a clean sweep.
Yeah, and Dan not even going for the refurbish, just the Locust God.
Well, it's a good creature here, but I think he might be dead on board. I haven't counted it up, even if it blocks the biggest thing. It's not pretty.
Yeah, so the Scavenger doesn't have trample. On the current board, it looks like he can survive with that block exactly, but it's not like he's in good shape after that happens.
And Chris might draw another Gear Hog, a Blossoming Defense, I don't know. There's a lot of live draws here for Pikula. Teammate's going to be looking over here. The Meddling Mage himself going to walk it in. Vraska's Contempt takes care of the blocker, exiles it, Chris gains 2, and this should be good.
That makes it easy.
4, 8, 10, 14. Let's make it a full 20 damage on the swing. Okay. Chris Pikula 2-0 defeats Dan Girdler. Jarvis Yu 2-0 defeats Brendan Regan. They're not even going to let Reed Duke finish his modern match. It is 5-0, and they are your winners.
Yep.